Hello and welcome to Opod. I'm your host Jordan. I'm with my wife Iman and our special guest Nigel.
Cool. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming. Just like every other intro that we start off with 3 favorite things about yourself. What are your 3 favorite things?
I'd like to say I'd thought of this well before, so I'm just gonna think of 3 random things I like about myself.
There's no pressure. It's
no pressure.
whatever,
Any quality,
anything that
any
comes to
quality.
mind.
All right, I would say resilience is a quality. I'd say just sort of, or stubbornness. Sometimes it's just stubbornness, but the sort of ability to keep going. I would say a quality of being able to bring people together, whether it's like a team thing through some of the events that we do, just ability to bring people together. I'd like to say I can make people laugh. I think making people laugh is a good quality. Although I realise by saying that I have set myself up.
Oh, I'm so excited for
high
that.
expectation. It's people watch it. It's like he's not funny.
No pressure.
Yeah, so we've read briefly about what you do and the companies you run. Could you tell us a bit more about mayamada?
Yeah, I can tell you a lot more about it. So it's a company that I started with a friend of mine, Lau, when we actually weren't. We were well out of university. But we both went to the same university and we did engineering. But we both had an passion for storytelling, Japanese culture, comics. And then we also thought it was way easier to start a business than it actually is. So we started a business. We started a business called mayamada. And then it allowed us to create stories, create comics, do something that was creative, that was in our own control. And we sort of built it up from there almost a decade ago. Lau's no longer involved, but I'm carrying it on and doing the best that I can.
Okay. So what's your main aim, I'd say? What's the intention with this?
The attention is, I guess, world domination in a sentence.
Sense?
Yeah. It was no. So it's a manga brand. So we make manga. We've created our own universe of characters, and it's also about creativity. So having something that hopefully inspires creativity in other people, particularly young people, particularly people from underrepresented backgrounds. I think a lot of what we do through the brand, through the events that we do, through the workshops, is around having young people be more aware of and maybe develop skills in industries that they might be interested in consuming, but not knowing they can be producers in. So I think part of that is like the overall brand aim is having like an positive impact on future generations as well.
That's sick. So you definitely had obviously people come in and use your program and be a part of it. What does that feel like to you? To have like something that you say you spent over a decade on, now you brought it to life, it's actually manifested. Yeah. And you're seeing the results, I'm assuming. Yeah. What is that like?
It's weird. It's weird because sometimes you think it's like something you've, in a sense, completely made up because it wasn't there before. You've created something, and then people. I almost feel like I shouldn't say this, but it's all people take it seriously. So like yesterday, So yesterday we were at the Ep5 for an event. So we were part of one of their events, and we've done a couple of events at the Ep5. It's like the Ep5, it's kind of, and they're sort of coming to you to ask you to do things that that I like to think we're good at, but it's weird because it's the BFI and you're just you. So it's a weird feeling sometimes. But then also it's good because it's like a reminder that actually you've done something. You've done something that has an impact on people.
This is obviously your passion, but like, what's your how did you get started into? Do you draw? Like, what's obviously you're the person in charge of it, but what the layers in it?
Yeah.
What do you?
So in a sense, I do everything but draw. Which is a problem in itself. But so when myself and Lau, we came up with this idea, neither of us can draw. Lau could draw a little bit better, but nothing like you could go and sell to people. So we went to the London Comic Con, which is like the UK's biggest comic convention.
The
Excel. There you go. So and then we saw someone. So they got like the Artist Alley or the Comic Village, where like independent creators. So we saw someone. She had her own table. She had her own comic at the time. I was like, oh, that looks good. Let's go talk to her and see. Would you like to be an artist for us? That was as much as it was. It's just, and then we've been working with her since. So her name's Penali. So she does the artwork for all the comics and everything. I largely write, so that's something I can do. So I write stories, and then, like I say, everything else. So organising events, producing our podcast, delivering the workshops, and anything else. I don't know, all the admin-y type stuff as well. Like I said, it's a problem, but yeah.
Okay, that's mad, because we would have thought that you'd know how to draw and everything since.
Yeah, you think that. That. I used to when I was younger. So when I was in school, long time ago, I used to like draw a lot. I was never great, but I liked doing it. Yeah, and then I got a computer. So this was back when computers weren't in abundance everywhere. So getting a computer was a big thing, and I went down a sort of tech engineering route. So I worked as a software engineer before sort of leaving that and then focusing on the business. So yeah, I used to draw. So in a weird way, it's like a
Full
sort of,
circle.
yeah, even though I don't draw now, but just coming back to that.
Is it something you'd like to get back into?
No, I already do too much. No. It's a good thing that I cannot draw.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
No. It's I'm happy with where I am.
Not even like doodles.
No. Good
Okay,
separation. It's a good thing.
What does your team look like then? Since, for example, you're the illustrator, you have Abby. Did you say?
Penali.
Penali.
Yeah, it's an illustrator. Yeah.
She draws.
Yes.
Yeah.
So how big is the team?
So it's a small team in terms of like the comics and everything. So it's myself, it's Penali, it's a friend of mine, Lara Lee, who helps develop stories. So like story editor. Over the past couple of years, we've had some interns working on concept art, working on writing, but that's pretty much it. Then we have events. So for the events, it's a bit wider. So we could have, I mentioned the BFI thing we did yesterday. It was just 3 of us there, but we've done a couple other events at the BFI and other places as well, where we've had like 8 or so people. So yeah, there's a wider team when it comes to events as well. And it's people who do sort of like a freelance basis, but people who enjoy doing like video game events, things like that. So it's about like bringing them in where people fit, what people enjoy doing, and hopefully it sort of all comes together to, like I say, have that impact on the people coming to the events or the workshops that we do.
So where does storyboard, is that another thing that's separate from mayamada?
No. So it's all part of a puzzle, a nice puzzle piece that fits in there. So we have.
So wait, mayamada came first, and then.
Yeah.
So how did storyboard get into it?
So we have mayamada, and then we have a bunch of sub brands. One of them is the storyboard, which is the creative workshops. So we do comic story workshops where, so I will go into a school, college, youth hub, and then help young people develop their own comic stories and characters. And the idea is about building creative confidence. So yes, it's like, create comics and stories and characters, but it's about like, your ideas, develop your ideas. So how do you generate ideas? How do you develop the stories, develop characters, work with other people to put ideas together? And it's all like transferable skills that you'll need in a creative space in the context of making a comic. So it's like so it's part of the brand, and then we have like a gaming event, and then we have like a podcast. I just like doing stuff apparently. Really so it's like mayamada is like the overall thing.
So what is the thing that you look most forward to out of like the different projects?
Yeah, so I'd say it's all good. I'd say there's like different stresses and everything. Probably looking back, particularly around the pandemic time when how that was. I think going into schools and working with young people was surprisingly rewarding. Something on some level look forward to, just because like kids are quite like present. Like they're very much there, like here, and you've got to be present as well. So it was that sort of bubble where whatever's happening outside, you sort of leave at the door, so to speak, and then like I said, depends on the kids, but for the most part, it's all good.
So you've definitely like made like your own comics.
Yeah.
How's that going?
Yeah, it's good. So we've got 5 comics out at the moment.
Okay.
So ranging from like smaller 40-page comics to like 100+ page, 140 odd page graphic novel type things.
And is it any stories in particular, or is it like things like you said you've made up characters and just that?
Yeah, so the brand, like I said, so it's a manga inspired comics. So the style is like manga-ish, I'd say. But what we've done is created our own universe. So the universe itself is a television network where each of the comics tells the story of a show. And if I was really on the ball, I'd have one with me, and then I'd show you, and then it'll be a whole thing. But you can, I don't know, you can edit that in or something. So I'll just do the pose, and then you'll just like edit in the comic here. But yeah, so each of the stories like will start with someone watching the show, and then it kind of goes in and tells the story of the show. So we did that just because it allowed us to do different ideas, but still hang together within like the context of a brand. So we can have a story that's like an action comedy or adventure or a drama comedy thing, and they're different shows, different sets of characters, but all within this shared universe. Kind of like, you know, like the MCU, Marvel Cinematic Universe is like different stories, and they all kind of come together. We're not Marvel, but it's in that kind of concept.
That's it. That's
yeah.
Nice.
And who are your target audience for your own personal comics? Like, are they?
Yeah, so it's all ages. So we've done it purposely, and I should also say all our characters are animals. So that all anthropomorphic is the phrase, where you've got animal characters with like human features, so like animals standing on 2 legs and things like that. So we did that to be more accessible. So for manga, sometimes it can get a sort of bad reputation, or certain stereotypes come out about what it is, and so for us, we wanted to use the manga style, but we didn't want someone who wasn't into manga to look at it from afar and say, oh, that's manga, I'm not into manga, I'm not even going to engage. So by making them animal characters, then at least like, oh, this looks interesting, cool, let me at least ask the question. So we did that, and then we wanted it to be all ages, so that, you know, younger readers as well as older readers can take part. And for me, I'm a big fan of like Pixar and their ability to make stories that are not necessarily for kids, but obviously like a younger audience in mind, but then adults can
enjoy them too.
Like, the humor and
the humor and some of the themes can be quite like heavy as well, but done in a way that's appealing to all. So I like that approach. So that's the kind of approach that we're taking.
Do you have any like future goals, like things that you're aiming towards, or anything you'd like to achieve? Obviously, you've achieved so much already.
Just the world domination. That's it's just I've got a whiteboard at home. It's just like world domination. Just world domination. It was all. So I think for us, it's kind of actually. You mentioned like team, and that's one of the things is being able to improve my delegation a bit, my ability to delegate, and bring more people in so that I don't have to do as much. I think I don't know. I think it's just a thing with like starting your own business. You'll just do a lot. But what I found, particularly over the last year, is that I do a lot of things that I don't necessarily have to do, or like someone else can do them and they'll still get done. It'll be fine, and then it frees me to do things that I in particular. So there's things within the business that I could be doing more of that will help the business. But because I'm doing a lot of other things, it's like quite distracting. So I think having that, we've got a team, but just solidifying that and bringing on more people. And then in terms of like the brand as well, just being able to like do more with it. So we've got like this year we started a campaign around diversity and inclusion in video games. So we want to like do more of that, work with more video games companies, do more events and activities, and have that be a bit more streamlined. That's a good business word, streamlined, throughout next year. And then also like animation is a thing in future. Like how do we turn the characters and stories that we've got into animation? So I've been sort of trying to get my head around that process and what that means and who I need to talk to. Those are a few things.
A lot.
It is a lot.
It takes a lot longer than just an illustration.
Yes, this is why I've is why I've just realised, and a lot of money.
It takes a lot of time.
Yeah,
it's very rewarding. Like,
yeah,
it's amazing. Also, I wanted to ask. So you obviously do gaming, and then obviously you have these. Do you want to make a game out of your characters one day, like, or is that something you're aiming towards? Yeah,
no, that idea is there. I think once you've got a set of characters, then sort of you can do different things with them. You can sort of make toys and merchandise them. You can make animation. You can do video games. So yeah, all those ideas are there. I think what it's about is like just establishing a brand and getting enough people to buy in that someone will then go, hey, let's give these people some money and turn this into a game or an animation. So it's like working towards that point as well.
I hope you get there.
Yeah, me too. Yes.
What advice would you give to someone who's not doing what you're doing but wants to do something like that, or illustrate or designing or do something with their
like
work?
Studied one thing but it wants to go into a different field, for example.
Or doesn't know that they might even want to do this type of thing.
Yeah. So many things. No, it's not even a heavy question. It's just which bit of advice because like I've gone through somewhat of a journey and learnt things. But so we also do a podcast. It's nice equipment, by the way, because I'm like, do we need to get some better cameras? But yeah, so we do a podcast, and so on our podcast we'll do like deep dives into stories. So we'll talk about like film and TV and animation. Our latest episode was on Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, so we did a deep dive into that story. But then we'll also do interviews with like creative professionals, so like from comics, from games, from animation, and then we'll ask them for advice. So along over the past few years, it's like getting a bunch of advice from other people. So this is me trying to pick out which bit of advice do I give. I think one of the things that always comes up that I've said, that our guests have said, is to start. And it's very simple. It sounds very simple, but it can be hard to do, where if you haven't done something, you can overthink, like, I need to be at this certain level to even get started. And by doing that, you don't even start. But it's like you have to get started. Like you there's a quote, I'm gonna hopefully not mangle this quote, but it's like, you don't have to be great to get started, but you have to get started to be great. And like when we started, like I take our event, our gaming event, and we started in a furniture shop in West London. So like literally having consoles and surrounded by refurbished furniture. It's not ideal, but that's where we were, and that allowed us to start. Then from there we got in contact with like Ubisoft and Nintendo, and they started supporting, and then we're doing other stuff, and it built up. So hopefully into next year it gets better. But if we had thought about it too much, we would have like, this is not where you started, right? You can't do that. So I think that's one of the key things, is to not let where you are now stop you from getting where you can be. And then the other one is like networking, and it sounds a bit cliche, but I'm almost every opportunity that I've got has come from networking. So going to an event, meeting someone, that person going, oh, this person's doing some cool stuff, let me introduce you to here, or go in this direction. Even just every year that I've been doing this, like this year, just meeting people in the game space, talking to them, and just being put in touch with like people from like Sony and PlayStation and Rocksteady and other places that I could have tried to bang my head against the front door trying to get in, but then someone can let you around the side because they're already in, and they can just open the door. So I say for people kind of wanting to get into something similar, it's like start, and with the knowledge that you're not perfect. There is no perfect, but you can improve. You have to get started, and then don't be afraid to put yourself in positions to meet people, to show people, to talk about what you do. And I say this as an introvert. I class myself as definitely an introvert, but just being able to get out of the comfort zone and just like talk to people, let people know what you're doing.
Nigel, is there anything you want to say to the listeners, to the viewers?
Oh, now I feel pressure. In part,
any projects you might have coming up soon, or
anything to keep our eyes out for.
What are we doing? What are we doing?
No,
I'm asking the universe. What are we doing? No, so because like the end of the year, so technically this is like a wind down phase. Although we've got one more event coming up. So next year we're gonna have like a lot more comics. So one of the things that I want to do, we spend a lot of time doing like gaming events, which is good, but I want to get some of the balance and put out more comic work. But one of the things I'd say to look out for is, particularly if anyone's interested in video games, are you guys into video games? I should have asked that before I started.
Not much, but
Okay,
My
then this
brother's-
is
my brother's like the nerds. I'll probably like pass it on to him. If anything.
okay. Pass
He's
on
like-
to him, and maybe you, because we can
Maybe.
turn that uncertainty into a yes.
Yes.
But so I mentioned we started this event, this campaign. Do I look like a gamer? And the idea is to challenge the stereotype of what is a gamer, what does it mean to play games, and then also provide awareness and opportunities for young people who want to get into the games industry or similar. And we did some stuff this year, but next year we want to sort of expand on what we're doing. So I'd say look out for that in terms of like the campaign, in terms of the events and the activities, and then the people that are going to be involved in that. So I think that's going to be a big thing, because the video games industry is not the most diverse as many creative industries, but with video games being like one of the biggest industries in the world, in our country, in the world, having that lack of diversity sort of carry forward for too long is a problem, because it means like young people missing out on what is a future industry. So I'd say, look out for that. Do I look like a gamer campaign, and then hopefully people can get involved and maybe change some minds here.
Yeah.
Do you have a console?
I don't know.
You have a console? Oh man, we need to.
Probably not anytime soon either, but in the future I'll make sure to check out
Okay.
what you get to.
Yeah,
Alright.
my consoles have been the old stuff at the moment. Like I have my Wii that just
Oh wow, that is.
yeah.
Okay.
Like when my
Okay.
cousins and my sisters come over and stuff, I'm like, you want to play Mario Kart? We're doing the old classic, not the new one.
We're not
the
serious
old.
games.
Like,
Yeah.
we're doing
Okay.
So, it
Okay.
might
We
be us
can
kids.
change that. We can change that.
So the question I wanted to ask was about the time frame between like coming up with the idea for a manga or a comic, and like when you expect it to be done by, and like the production and when it's like out. Because like, does it take a whole week? Like you've been doing it for so long, but like
How long does it take?
how long does it take realistically to make a comic?
Yeah. So the answer is twice as long as you think it will, and it will cost like 4 times as much. But
I'm not getting my hopes up then.
yeah. So like we did our first comic in 2013. It's 50 pages, and it took about 18 months, thereabouts.
Wow.
Year and a half.
Yeah, so something like that. I mean, we've done more pages in a similar time, so we kind of got better in a sense.
Yeah, with practice makes.
Yeah, and then just like the process, but it takes a long while between like, so writing, I mean, technically it's like years, because there's stories that we've got now that I've been working on in some way for like literal years. One of them should come out. We should start working on it properly next year. But yeah, you've got like the writing, which can take months to years, and then once we've got a script together and everything, and then we pass it to the artist, then she does sort of the work, and it's like sort of that process is set, and then we go back and forth with edits. So there's like writing, artwork, edits, and then it's ready. Yeah, and that could take once you sort of get down to it, like sort of 18 months.
And then do you send it out to?
Oh, then we send it to a
publish?
printer.
Okay.
Yeah, so we have a printer. We send it there. Send some money along with it, and then 2 weeks or so, you get a box full of comics.
And how do
Yeah.
you know how many to order at the first time? Like, do you just kind of?
You look at your bank account, and then, and then that will tell you how many books to order. So, and actually that's true. Actually, but yeah. So sometimes we'll print. So either there's 2 main sort of deadlines that we work towards. So we use a crowdfunding platform called Kickstarter. So then that will say like, if this many people supported it, then you at least you got to print that many books. The other one is if we go to a comic convention, and then you kind of we've done enough now. We've got a general sense of how many to get. So you want to basically cover how many you think people buy, and then have a bit more left over. So yeah, it depends.
I'm asking all for personal reasons.
No,
Like, I want to know.
You trying to make a comic?
I mean, there's a lot of different things that I want to do, like
Okay.
in terms of like in art. Like one of the things that I made.
Okay,
for this.
cool. Yeah, I noticed
Yeah,
everyone's got
we
the
will-
the branding.
Did them
That's
last
good.
night.
I'm all for good branding.
Thank you very much. But yeah, comics is something that we've also talked about, and I've done. I did a Kickstarter where was a storyboarder and animator, illustrator for a children's book and children's animation. Like they were doing
Okay.
a TV show. Yeah.
All right, so you know
I've-
how it works.
Yes, that's why I was like, I've been there, I've seen
Yeah,
it. The
yeah.
process is extremely long, like
Yeah.
the edits and the go back and forth. So I can imagine, obviously, writing a manga is one thing, but having it illustrated and having it live and animated, is like a whole thing, but it's so rewarding to watch it afterwards.
Yeah, and I think for us it's because, one, I'm not the artist, so I can stand back and watch that process. But we have a good artist, and even though the way we found her was, it wasn't so random because we were looking for an artist and we were in Comic-Con, so it wasn't so random.
Yeah.
But when I say we just looked over at a table and said, let's go talk to her, that was the process. So there wasn't anything more thought to it than that. But it just so happened that we stumbled across a very high quality, reliable, dependable artist, and we've been working with her for almost like the 10 years that we've been doing for the majority of that. And what it means is when we send a story, because she understands the characters and everything, so but then she also, because she's a different person, puts her own, not necessarily her own spin, because we have a script and everything, but her interpretation.
Yeah.
So then there'll be things that come up that is like, I didn't explicitly say do this, but because she knows how to illustrate and how to put together a comic, she'll like, okay, if you put it like, it works. So then I get it back. I'm like, oh, cool, that's a good interpretation, or change
So
this
it's
little
part
bit
of
here.
being a team that understands each other too.
Yeah, and it's a nice process. There's, you write something and then you see it sort of reflected back visually, and then you go in back and forth and change it. So yeah, it's a cool process, which is another reason why it's good that I don't do the artwork, because if I did, I wouldn't get that. So
It's really cool.
That's sick, yeah. Well,
I was gonna say, if I have had any more questions, we're gonna be here all day.
Yeah.
So
that's it for now. Yeah. Thank you for tuning in and listening to.
Pod.
I've been your host Jordan with my wife Iman and our special guest Nigel. Thank you for coming, Nigel.
Cool. Thanks again for having me.